Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we got the pleasure of watching NuoriHosuja playing in the E75 TS. Now I haven't featured this tank on the channel since it was released last year as a loot box exclusive, but I think since then it's actually been sold a couple of times in the store, and who knows, maybe it's going to come back in time for Christmas. So let's have a quick recap. What is the E75 TS, and is it a worthy tier 8 premium vehicle that you might want to consider parting with your hard-earned cash to be able to get? Well, this tier 8 German premium heavy tank is kind of like taking an E75, mixing it with a Lerva, and dropping it down to tier 8. It's got some really nice side skirts over the sides of the vehicle. Well, surprise that the side skirts are over the side of the tank, right? But these really help with high explosive rounds and also with high explosive anti-tank ammunition, which, you know what, German tanks are famously bad for. The other thing that's pretty cool about this vehicle is the turret. Notice on the front that it has a big old mantlet on the front of this vehicle, and a bit like a Lerva turret, that means that your shell just seems to catch shots, and your enemy can never feel like they're truly guaranteed to be able to go into the turret. When you're shooting at an E75, for example, as soon as you have about 300mm of penetration, and you hit to the left or to the right of a tiny, almost pike-nosed mantlet that comes out of the vehicle, you know you're going to be going in. And also, having quite a prominent cupola on the top of the E75 means that you'll be able to hit that if it's not using any of its gun depression. And while the E75 TS does have a cupola as well, just that huge mantlet over the front of the vehicle, while I would never trust it guaranteed to be able to block damage from about 250mm of penetration, which most tier 8 and tier 9 tanks have these days, it is still a worthy thing to not rely on, but just sometimes it will give you that perk if you'll be able to ricochet the shell. Its armor is not incredible on the turret, but also not terrible either. And there just seems to be occasions where people will just whiff a shot at the turret and it seems to always just go through. Unlike something such as the T-34, for example, which I feel that has a more reliable turret, as long as people don't get the side or manage to overmatch the top with big caliber guns. The E75 TS is also famous, I guess, for being fast. This thing has a 45km/h top speed limit and a power to weight ratio of 16. This means that the vehicle is exceptionally good at giving your opponent little shunts, pushing into them little bits of micro damage, a bit like what the mouse is good at, but with this thing having a better power to weight ratio and a better top speed limit, as well as also weighing 80 tons, this is a very good ramming tank, and you will be able to take advantage of any kind of medium tank or any lightly armored tank destroyer, or even some of the smaller heavy tanks, of which there are a lot at tier 8 that you can take advantage of if they do manage to get themselves into an awkward position. The other things that are strong about the E75 TS are 390m view range, so that means you can probably not use coated optics on this tank, and like Nuori is doing here, what you can manage to do is actually take a premium consumable on this vehicle, probably have a very skilled crew, as many people do have, as the German heavy tanks are truly loved, at least on the European server, that you will have a decent view range without using coated optics. I'm 99% sure that Nuori here is using a gun rammer as well as vents, probably in the vent slot, unless they're using bounty equipment, and they're also using a vertical stabilizer on this tank. It's the holy trinity of World of Tanks, that equipment loadout, and with a premium consumable and decent crew skills, yeah, it does go a long way to still have a decent view range. Looks like Nuori probably has about 440 meters here. It's good enough, and when you want to play this vehicle at close quarters combat with a setup like that, then you are going to be able to outperform vehicles that try to focus either on their view range or on their durability, at least until they need those extra hit points, right? So the E75 TS is just this all-round plowing tank. If you're used to vehicles like the E50, if you're used to vehicles like the E75, if you're used to vehicles like the Lerva, it kind of plays like all of those. It's a faster Lerva that has better alpha damage and decent penetration. On its standard rounds of 227, but look at these gold rounds, 282 with 1,375 meters a second shell velocity. Yeah, these APCR rounds are absolutely awesome. Alright, so Nuori has spent the first 5 minutes of this game basically sniping it out and trying to catch the enemies to stop them making along the one line. Hasn't really had what I would call a hero's impact in the first 5 minutes of the battle, but this is where he is going to start to turn things up. He's going to turn it up to 10. And for the rest of this replay, yeah, this is some cracking stuff. Alright, so Nuori realizes, okay, there's a huge amount of vehicles. I want to try and get stuck in. How about I try and side scrape with this vehicle, try and put myself into forward's position. But also Nuori looks a little bit hesitant that he might be jumping into the bath rather than dipping his toes in just one by one. He manages to shut down the IS-2S on the enemy team, but looks like the IS manages to spot him. Luckily, in a matchup like this, when you don't have to worry about self-propelled guns, that allows you a nice amount of flexibility in your German heavies. The IS thinks twice about coming around the corner and getting shot by the E75 TS, which of course has that 360 alpha damage. It's a nice sweet spot. It's not quite 400 as you would have on something like the T-34, but it's not like 320 that you would have on the Lerva, or even some heavy tanks like the Carnarvon Action 10, for example, which drop all the way down to 230. Alright, so Nuori trying to put some pressure up on the ISM here, a vehicle that has incredibly good frontal armor, but fairly weak side armor if he can manage to get the side shot off. But he's got to be incredibly worried about this tank destroyer gun line towards the south. And also, I would be worried about the fact that his team, that is a tier 7 heavy, another tier 7 heavy, and 2 tier 7 tank destroyers, are going against an Object 252U with the backup of a CS-44 and also a Tiger that will be giving them some fire support. So whether his south is going to win is another question. So Nuori is likely to have to win this location as well. And it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vehicles against 3 vehicles in the town now as the enemy team starts to be able to pull out a bit of an advantage. Nuori, don't tunnel vision against the T-28, mate. Oh, he just realizes, but he takes 2 shots. That is very costly. But at least some good reactions, and Nuori is able to put a round into the cheeks of the T-28, but things are starting to look bleak now. With only 414 hit points left, this game is starting to be turned into the enemy's favors. Nuori, looks like you can chill. I think your AT-15 should be able to handle that ISM. What you need to do is focus on what's in front of you. The Tiger P that's trying to get those shots in, the T-25-2, and also the UDES. That is what the priority has to be right now. And unfortunately, and very frustrating for Nuori here, must be the fact that the Tiger P is unable to be spotted. He's likely to be using binoculars, or maybe he's just using those bushes well. He's not revealing his location, and even more annoyingly, the Tiger P was firing high explosive rounds, doing those little micro amounts of damage. So this is a very interesting duel here between the ISM and the AT-15. The ISM finally manages to do a little bit of damage, and it looks like the Tiger P managed to put a high explosive shell in. Nuori comes around, finds the corner of the ISM. Great knowledge there about where the weak point would be. The side armor would actually have been stronger than right on the corner there, which would have been completely flush and allows Nuori to pick up their 5th kill of the game. And unfortunately, like the doomsayer that QuickyBaby is, managed to predict that situation where the 252U has absolutely cut through. I mean, it's not really as if I'm some kind of mystic meg here. If you put a tier 8 premium heavy tank against some lower tier vehicles, usually they are going to come out on top. And we've got to hope for Nuori's sake that that is also going to be the case here against the Tiger. As the E75 TS puts in a precise shot into the Tiger's tracks, the Tiger panics, as you would expect when you're locked in place by 2 tier 8 vehicles, and slowly but surely your hit points are being taken away from you. So the AT-15 locks down the Tiger here. Nuori's going to be able to put a shot in. But Nuori, I've got a funny feeling you held that shot there. Looks like you were a little bit of a scumbag, maybe wanting to pick up a Top Gun. Maybe Nuori thought, I'm going to lose this game. I want to get a Top Gun, so at least I managed to get some experience out of it. Okay, we'll see if you do that. We'll let you off for the Top Gun, my friend, but I hope you're not going to be continuing to do that. Don't like seeing people holding shells so they can be able to secure kills. Maybe it was a Radley Walters medal, maybe it was a Pools medal, possibly, but maybe Nuori's doing some kind of a mission. That doesn't seem to be the case though, as he's... Oh, actually, well, no, he's only had to get 5 kills. He didn't have to get the 6th. All right, Nuori isn't holding the shells here, though. He's put one into the T-25-2, allowing the AT-15 to be able to secure their 1st kill of the game. Fair stuff here. Nuori comes around the corner, harasses the UDES, but unfortunately for him, the AT-15 gets shut down by the Tiger P after finishing off that T-25-2, which now leaves Nuori in a 1 versus 4 situation with 6 kills to their name. All right, 5,500 damage. 10 minutes into this round of World of Tanks with 5 minutes left on the clock. An Object 252U, aka a defender, making their way through the southern part of this map, and a tier 7 Polish medium tank as well to boot. This is a really important shot. Oh, that is a result. Aimed it for as long as Nuori pretty much possibly could. securing the kill on the tier 8 Swedish tank destroyer, and that is not something you want to leave on a small amount of hit points, taking the final 159 away from the UDES, and that means that the highest penetration at tier 8 is no longer going to be able to harass Niori from long range, and trying to find a UDES is an incredibly challenging thing for a vehicle that seems to be focusing on its close quarters combat capacity rather than also focusing on just purely the view range. So Niori is trying to do heavy tank 4 for the Object 260, a tricky mission to be able to do. Needs to get one more crit, already has the 5 kills. Hopefully Niori can manage to destroy one internal module or one internal crew. That's probably where your crew are going to be if they're in combat, is inside the tank and hopefully not on top of the tank. They need to do one more crit to be able to get 6 total, so let's cheer them on. Maybe Niori's going to be able to pick up a Radley here, possibly if he manages to secure a kill. Just got to hope that the Object 252U is low on hit points. So I like what Niori is doing here, using the bushes to be able to approach the situation. Hopefully able to spot the Object 252U, or probably not the Tiger P. It could be the CS44 that's also in the cap circle here. So Niori goes forwards. Oh god, it's on full hit points, and it's also boosting its hit points as well. This is going to be a tricky tank to take out. Unless, like Niori, you know the mechanics of World of Tanks, and that is that if you go forwards into the bush and you pull back behind the bush, you can shoot through the bush without managing to get spotted. And slowly but surely, Niori is chipping away with a low health tank against an incredible premium vehicle. Even fires that one blind, committing to the shot before the 252U was respotted, but a little bit of a misplay there, I guess, round the corner, and that means that Niori is actually spotted by the 252U. He fires another one into the lower plate of the 252U, now leaving it on 278 hit points, and only one more shell should do it. Looks like the 252U must have been ammo-racked or must have missed Niori, or both, making their way into that situation. But just as Niori secures the 8th kill, now has to turn around to deal with a Tiger P. And will he look at the ammo? After dealing 7,689 damage, more than any tier 8 heavy tank should ever have to do in World of Tanks, Niori is now down to only high explosive rounds, 5 to be exact. How do you deal with a heavy tank when you only have 60 millimeters of penetration? Well, I guess Niori doesn't have time to think about that because the CS44 has managed to go behind. Niori takes a shot at the turret, and disaster! Now only 4 rounds to deal with the 2 remaining tanks. Niori bounces the Tiger P, who's firing gold with the stock gun. But Niori here is going to aim up. Did that just penetrate? 425 damage dealt, and that's because the weak point of the Tiger P only has 50 millimeters of armor. So Niori puts another penetrating high explosive round into the top of the tank, meaning that now Niori has 2 rounds left, and the siren goes off, adding pressure to the end of this situation. This one is going to be down to the wire. Niori, 2 rounds to try and finish off. The CS44 on low hit points decides to take the chance to race into position. The CS44 now within the range of hit points where they will be able to finish off Niori in one shot, but Niori fires through the fences, wiggles in victory. That must have been a feels-good moment of World of Tanks, and with 1 remaining shell in the tank, 10 kills and 8,500 damage to boot, Niori takes down quite a carry. This is one of the best carries I've seen in a premium tank this year, in an all-round nail-biter of World of Tanks. So Niori takes down an ace tanker, as you would expect, for when you get 2,279 base experience points. Yeah, just chipping that ace tanker to be harder and harder for the rest of us to be able to achieve, right, bud? A Pools medal for securing that 10th kill, a Steel Wall medal for managing to block 2,170 damage, and a high caliber, unsurprisingly, for 8,898 damage. Could you not have done just 10 less and then it would have been the perfect 8888, mate? I think that might be asking a little bit too much. Well, actually, when I think about it, it's asking for a little bit less damage. Have I ever asked for less damage in a replay? I don't think so. And Niori also makes a cool 138,000 credits profit, with or without a premium account, as you would expect for a monster game in a monster premium vehicle. So after a game like this, I would forgive a lot of you to be jumping up and thinking, oh, this must be the best tier 8 premium tank in the game. And while its win ratio at 51.21% on the European server is far from bad. It's behind a whole series of other tier 8 premium vehicles. And that's because more often than not, the vehicle's rather weak lower plate and not very good hull armor. You only need 200 millimeters of penetration to be able to go through it, unless of course you're using your gun depression, but even then, heat rounds will be able to go right through it. Just doesn't really seem to hold up. It's a strong tank in the right situation, but is it going to be everybody's cup of tea? Definitely not, but it certainly was Nuori. And Nuori, thank you so much for uploading an incredible game. You say it was my best game ever, and you know what, bud? It's definitely better than a game that I've ever had in World of Tanks, so congratulations to you for that. And thank you for putting my name, or QB, in the title so you could get my attention and know that you wanted to be featured on the channel. And if any of you have some cracking replays that you've managed to achieve recently in World of Tanks, make sure you go and upload them on the whatreplays.eu website and put QuickyBaby or QB or Quacky Lord, whatever you want to put in the title to be able to get my attention. Because of course, I'd always rather feature replays from you all, my lovely community, than picking some random ones. So that's it for today, ladies and gents. I hope all of you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. But if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know if you were lucky enough to be able to get an E75 TS inside the loot boxes last year, or if you decide to pick it up separately at the full price tag. And what do you think about the vehicle? Have you played it a lot? I personally haven't played mine a lot. I think I'd rather play an E75 at tier 9 or play the Mouse or the E100 at tier 10 if I want to get that kind of German heavy tank itch scratched. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic. And oh, one more thing. Shadowlands, World of Warcraft Shadowlands is out today. So if you want to follow me and my epic adventures back into Azeroth with Tanya and a bunch of my other friends, then come along. I'm going to be streaming pretty much solidly this week, World of Warcraft Shadowlands. So hopefully I'll see all of you there.